Hello. Are you interested in making tofu but not sure how to make it or what to do with it? Or maybe you think you don't like tofu because you think it's kind of spongy and you've never had a good experience with it. Well, I wanted to show you a quick and simple way that I make tofu that you're going to find delicious. First, I start with a extra firm or firm tofu. It comes in a container such as this, and it's in water. So the first thing I did was I drained the water off of this. Then what I'm going to do is actually take it out of the container. The water has been removed, but it's very wet. In order for this to not be spongy and to have a nice texture, the goal is to get as much water out as possible. So I'm going to lay this on a clean towel. You could use a paper towel, whatever you find more useful. I'm going to actually press this between two plates, just like this, for a couple of hours. I'm going to change my towel in between just to make sure I get most of the water out, and I'll be back to show you what it should look like when it's finished. Okay, so this was not 2 hours. I probably let this sit between my plate probably more like an hour, a little over an hour, but my towel was so absorbent, it was a cotton towel, that it really absorbed a lot of the moisture. So I just finished it with a little, with a paper towel, and I think I got the rest of most of the moistness. Okay, so what I want to show you is that you can slice this tofu really however you want. You can slice it like you would bread. You could slice it, lengthwise. I like mine in cubes, so I'm going to actually cut this probably about an inch wide. Have to be perfect, and then I'm going to slice it again just so I have decent sized chunks. You can cut it again if you want them small, but I'm just, for again demonstration purposes, I just don't want to spend too much time cutting my tofu. I'd rather show you the results than my cutting techniques. So I'm tossing this in a bowl. I just have this in my bowl. What I have here, this is going to be my marinade. I have a combination of coconut aminos. Coconut aminos is the sap from the coconut. It tastes similar to soy sauce, but it's much lower in sodium. So this is a great option for a low sodium diet. I also just added a splash of the teriyaki. This does have some sodium in it. It's lower sodium, but it still has about 320 milligrams per tablespoon, I believe. Yes. So I just did a splash of that. I added just a hint of cayenne to give it some heat, but what I find gives it a fabulous flavor is smoked paprika. So I added smoked paprika and just a little bit of red pepper, crushed red pepper flakes, which will also give it some heat. This is your recipe. You can do whatever it is that you enjoy, that you like, that you prefer. The one thing that I want to mention is that the more liquid that you add back to your already towel dried tofu, it'll make it more moist and it won't get as crunchy as your end result. So you could typically, some people just want to use just their dry spices, and you can do that as well. I am going to put my liquid marinade on here, and I'm going to let it sit for probably an hour before I put this in the oven. So I'm just going to pour this on. And it's not a lot. I'm not going to heavily coat this. And then I'm just going to lightly toss. You can always add a little bit more of the dry ingredients right before it goes into the oven. Okay, so I've coated it. I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm going to cover it and put it in the refrigerator, and then I'll be back when I'm ready to put it in the oven. Okay, so my tofu has been marinating in the refrigerator for about an hour, and I just took it out of the refrigerator and I laid it on the baking dish, my baking tray, lined with parchment paper so it doesn't stick. And it looks like it's absorbed the marinade nicely and it's not too wet, so this will be a perfect amount. I am just going to sprinkle a tiny bit more paprika, the smoked paprika. This will give it a wonderful, rich, savory flavor, and without adding more moisture. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit more. The tofu in the oven bakes for about an hour at 350. But of course you want to rotate it in between. So I am going to bake this at 350 on my convection oven, so this will probably be done in a half an hour. It'll be short in time. But I'm going to keep a close eye on it and rotate it a couple of times, and it'll be done in a half an hour, maybe a little bit longer, depending on just how crunchy you want your tofu to be. Okay, so I'll be back in a few minutes when my tofu is ready. The tofu was finished and it came out delicious. I kept it in the oven at 350 on the convection setting, and it was exactly a half an hour. I rotated a couple of times, and you can just see how golden brown this is. It's perfectly, the texture is perfect. It has a little bit of softness in the middle, but the outside is crunchy. I'm serving it up tonight with some sauteed vegetables, with a little pasta that I had left over, and I may add a little bit of hot sauce, maybe a little extra soy sauce or the coconut aminos. If I cut this tofu in half or in smaller pieces, it's a great appetizer that you could serve at a party. There's so many options for this. It could be tossed in a stir fry, it could be thrown in a salad, whatever way you choose to enjoy your tofu, but it's a wonderful source of protein, full of a lot of nutrients. So go ahead, give it a try. Enjoy.